Nathan never knew when it would happen. One moment he was walking down a familiar street. The next, he was somewhere else, somewhere impossible. The first time it happened, he thought he was dreaming. Nathan found himself in the middle of an empty highway. It stretched endlessly in both directions under a pitch-black sky. No stars, no moon, just silence. The second time, he was perched on the edge of a jagged cliff, staring down at violent waves crashing against the rocks below. Each time he teleported, his heart pounded in terror. Would he ever escape? He tried to rationalize it. Nathan told himself it was exhaustion, stress, maybe blackouts. But he knew better. He was being moved, displaced, pulled by something beyond his control. And each time the places became darker, more dangerous. He stopped telling people. Who would believe him? He barely believed it himself. Then one night, everything changed. Mid-step, he was somewhere new, an abandoned subway tunnel. For the first time, a clue, a sign, scratched onto the metal walls, barely visible in the dim emergency lighting. You are not alone. Nathan's breath hitched, his pulse quickened. Someone knew. Someone had been here before. He stepped forward and then, another message. This time, smeared onto the cracked tile floor in what looked disturbingly like dried blood. Find Nova X. A metallic creak echoed down the tunnel. Footsteps. He wasn't alone. A dark figure stood at the far end of the tunnel, barely illuminated by a flickering overhead light. It took a step toward him, then another, before he could react. The world blurred. He landed somewhere cold and sterile. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Rows of glass-walled rooms lined both sides, most of them shattered. Their contents scattered across the floor. Monitors, screens, syringes, restraints, a research laboratory. Nathan's hands shook as he stepped over a fallen clipboard. Papers fluttered. His eyes caught a single document. Bold, black ink. A name. Project Nova X. Subject 37, Nathan Cole. A chilling realization hit him. His stomach dropped. His name, his file, his entire life. Reduced to an experiment. He flipped through the pages with trembling fingers. Cognitive displacement trials. Induced spatial anomalies. Subject's resistance increasing. Memory resets unsuccessful. They were doing this to him. They had been doing this for a long time. A distant clatter snapped him from his trance. Footsteps. Someone was coming. He ran, his breath shallow. The walls flickered, not the lights, the walls themselves. Like a glitch in a video game. The fabric of reality was unstable. This place wasn't real, or at least, not entirely. And then he saw it. A row of pods, each one containing a figure, suspended unconscious, floating in a gel-like substance. Then he saw himself. No, he saw copies of himself. A surge of panic hit him. He wasn't just an experiment. There were multiple versions of him. Or were they failed copies? Different stages of the experiment? He didn't have time to find out. Behind him, footsteps grew louder. A low murmur filled the air. Voices, speaking in a language he didn't understand. He ran, down the hall, past the shattered rooms, blindly into a corridor. The world blurred. But something was wrong. This wasn't teleportation. Everything faded into white. Then he woke up. A hospital. White walls, white sheets. Bright overhead lights stinging his vision. Nathan tried to move. He couldn't. Then a shadow leaned over him. A man in a crisp white lab coat. No name tag, just a smirk. He scribbled something on a clipboard. Then he spoke. He's awake. A sharp hiss filled the air. Something cold rushed through the IV in his arm. Nathan's body tensed. His vision darkened at the edges. Then, blackness.